Today, I'm speaking with the incredible Tracy Lindley, a voiceover sensation from the Midwest who's making waves lending her voice to big name brands. She balances a thriving career, a bustling family life, and still finds the time to give back. From navigating the trenches of the voiceover industry to useful networking advice, Tracy has stories that'll leave you both inspired and entertained. We'll be unraveling the threads of her fascinating story, from accidental mentors to conquering the fiercely competitive voiceover landscape. Her story is a testament to the fact that you can thrive in the industry without having to live in a major city as long as you have the skills, determination, and perseverance. Hey, Tracy, thank you so much for your time this morning. Appreciate it. I found you on LinkedIn, and obviously you have such a great presence there. And I was reading your backstory and just kind of felt like, wow, this would be a great person to speak with and kind of learn from, the audience here to kind of pick up like what you're doing and all the cool things that you've done and are doing. So again, thank you for your time this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Joe. It's really nice to have you reach out. And I feel kind of safe on LinkedIn. I really like to interact with people there. So I'm glad you used that method rather than my website contact form. You never know who you're going to get. But I feel a sense of community on LinkedIn. So anyway, I'm really glad you reached out. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's been great. You're a couple time zones ahead of me here in California, but you're doing a lot of cool things from where you're at, which a lot of people might say, oh gosh, we'll get into that later about, the bigger cities for people in the voiceover world. But your background, you were started in a cable station, right out of college, and you sort of had like sort of an exchange with someone there. But what was that sort of moment that made you realize that voiceover was something that you felt interested in and actually, became your true passion in life?
Well, the interaction with the cable company, I didn't know what voiceover was. I had been doing it for years and didn't know what it was called. I didn't really think twice about it, but I always felt a sense of exhilaration when I would be asked to do that and asked to read something that would be broadcast. And I felt like I was really good at it. And when you're in college, you're trying to figure out your life. You aren't really sure. I ended up taking a job as an insurance claims adjuster. It was clearly not my passion, but you have to do what you have to do to pay the bills and get your benefits. But I did quit that as soon as I could. I stuck it out for 5 years. But after that, I became a stay-at-home mom for another 5 years. And I was fulfilled doing that in some ways and unfulfilled in others. As a parent, you know that kids are awesome, but you have another facet of yourself that, in your creative side that it's going to need that outlet. So I was searching for the right outlet, and the years go by. I keep going in to do the voiceovers periodically here and there. And then when I told the producer, I really can't drag my 3 kids in here anymore, especially for the money they were paying me. And he said, did you know you can do this from home? And so that's when I began to research what voiceover was, what it entailed. I mean, now I have my home studio and my equipment, and I have tons of clients, and I'm constantly, as a entrepreneur and someone who works in the gig economy, we need to have clients always at the pipeline. You can't always count on the ones you have. So I'm constantly looking for new ones and putting myself out there. And the great thing about voiceover is that when you specialize in commercials or short web-based videos like I do, it turns around pretty quickly, and then you can take on a new project. And it's not like it takes months to do it, like if I were in website development or something like that.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends, same difference, maybe in music production even. Years ago, you'd have to go rent a studio, you got your mixing board, all these kind of things. And now, in the last couple of decades, people are just able to do these from, a garage and get the same quality, it seems like. And, for you spending all this time, I think it's about 5 years or so, you sort of built your income to like pre-corporate levels. Like,
It
Walking?
didn't even take that long to get to what I was making at
No?
the insurance company, but it took about
Okay.
5 years to get to the six-figure income that I was looking for, and then I've just grown it from there. On my own terms, still
Mm.
being a very present parent, involving my kids in the industry too, which I know is
Oh,
something that you wanted to talk about too, but just
yeah.
being in it together and being able to teach them business principles and having them exposed to high level CEOs, VPs, creative directors, that's been really beneficial for them and they don't even know it yet. And building their college fund, which is good
Exactly.
for me too.
That's great for you. But going back to, like, the early challenges, and small victories along the way, big victories on the way. Like, how did you deal with that at the time where things weren't maybe as not easy, but comfortable as they may be now? Sort of what kept you going through those tougher times to kind of persevere through that time to build to where you are?
I think the passion had a lot to do with it and the fact that I follow my gut instinct when it comes to some things. And this was one of those things where I knew that I was really good at this. I love it. It comes pretty easily to me, and I don't have to struggle to do it. Finally, it clicked that this is where I'm meant to be. And so there was no way I was going to walk away from that. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that this was the industry for me. And when I want something, I'm like a dog with a bone, right? If you can't be very persevering when you're an entrepreneur, you're probably not going to make it. You have to decide this is what I'm doing and go for it. Because being an entrepreneur is not easy. If you don't set yourself up for success, you have an uncertainty of income. You don't know what your future is going to hold. But I don't ever worry about not having enough money or, I don't know where the next paycheck is going to come from because I've got a constant pipeline of clients. And I didn't though in the beginning and talking about, past challenges and building the business up. It does take time. It did take me about 3 years before I was really making any kind of money. The first year, usually you're in the red. Same. The second
Mhm.
year, I don't know, I made $12,000, so like $1,000 a month. I think the next year I made somewhere around 36. And so that was about a little bit less than what I was making as a claims adjuster. And it just kind of kept building from there. And then by 2018, that was the finish of year 5 and that's when I surpassed 100,000 and I was like, okay, that was my goal. And now I'm going to set a new goal and I'm going to keep building on this income. And what do I need to do? So I got my plan together. I need this talent agent. I need to do so many reach outs on LinkedIn. And you have to have some sort of plan. It's not just going to show up at your doorstep, but I think in person networking has been really beneficial for me. I go to a lot of voiceover conferences and events, just FaceTime with people I think that, the LinkedIn community and the online community is also very strong. You can pretty much ask people for a Zoom call, and many times, as long as you don't seem weird or greedy, people will go for it. I think that all of us get a little lonely working from home, and you're like, you seem fun. Oh, sure. I mean, when you reached out to me, I don't know you, but I did
Sure.
sort of vet you online and make sure you had some sort of presence and you seemed like a great guy, Joe. So I was like, sure. And the way you approach people too is really important. And I felt like your approach was very non-spammy and that's what I go for when it comes to how I approach clients as well. Just be authentic with people.
Yeah, exactly. Authenticity obviously is going to take you a long way in any industry, right?
Mhm.
And I think that you struck at a good point too. People are getting, working from home, the pandemic, those things did turn people to, it did get lonely, I think, for a lot of people. And I feel now that conferences are back, and that's a big help for most businesses right now to get back in that, like you said, the FaceTime and meeting people. But I guess what I was wondering, competition, so like you're obviously not in LA, not in New York, which someone like me who's a layman to your industry might think, okay, that's where all the the big talent live, right? how do you like sort of maintain that confidence, positive mindset? Assuming I'm not off, I'm
You're not wrong.
somewhat right about,
Yeah.
like how do you kind of like maintain that confidence, positive mindset, run a successful business from your market, looking at these other two markets where, again, most of the talent probably live?
Well, honestly, I think I have an advantage over LA and New York because I work remotely. The pandemic shifted a lot of working habits. So in 2020, people who were so used to going into studios and didn't have a home studio, they had no idea what to do. So they were flocking to the voiceover industry, people like actors, Broadway actors or on camera sets. I don't know. There were so many people that wanted to be part of the voiceover industry at that point. I felt like I was at an advantage because that's how I started, always working remotely. So nothing changed for me. In fact, I think yes, I definitely surpassed my income in 2020 than I had in 2019. I don't remember by how much because I kind of quit tracking. I don't think about it a lot because I try not to focus on the income. I try to focus on the quality of my work and continuing to build relationships, but I don't stress about it too much. But anyway, I would say that there's competition everywhere. Talent is everywhere, but recording digitally, remotely has been a huge benefit to the industry because it allows anybody anywhere, as long as they understand the industry and have the talent and are willing to put in the work and invest in the right equipment and performance training, they can get in the industry. It doesn't matter where you live. I do live in a flyover state here in Missouri, and it's never once been a disadvantage to me. And I do have talent agents. I have some internationally, and I also have an LA agent, Atlanta, and then I do have my Kansas City agent. One of my biggest agents runs an agency in Cleveland and one in Pittsburgh. So it really doesn't matter where you live anymore as long as you are able to operate remotely in a confident way. You have to know how to work your equipment. You have to understand even things like mic placement. Because if I get up like this, it's just, that kind of thing where that's not a good sound. And if you pop your P's, people don't want to hear that. You have to understand how to use your equipment. It's really important to learn how to do audio editing. I also have Source Connect, which is a way for me to connect with a studio anywhere in the world. I've done sessions. I had one in particular that my client was in the UK and their client was in Australia. So it was very weird trying to figure out the right time zone. I don't remember what time we settled on. It's usually like real early morning or the end of my workday, but I think it was pretty early in the morning as I recall. But I don't know. I just feel like recording remotely, the internet, I mean, it's leveled the playing field. So I don't feel a lot of competition. And really, it comes from inside. We have to believe in ourselves. We have to be confident in what we have to offer. I could stress about, oh, there's a million girls that sound like me, but I don't because I think that even if someone sounds like me, my voice print, the way that I deliver the message is going to be different because I come from a different place, different experience, different way of talking, different upbringing. So I don't think any two voices are alike, even though people that don't always know me super well will message me and be like, hey, were you on this commercial? And I was like, no, that's not me. You think you're really unique until that happens.
So you're drawing this like, and I did, some research on you obviously too. And what I found, clients praise your voice being familiar, being authentic, and being relatable. That's not something most people can teach or fake, like fake authenticity. Yeah, of course, actors are actors to some degree, right? But you have to draw from within and who you are. And I think that that's probably where people are, being able to figure out, okay, this girl's legit and this is why we like working with her. So taking that, like, what do you think, or what do you believe sets you apart from these other people? Is it the authenticity, like in terms of vocal skills and just your professional approach to the industry?
I really think personality plays a lot into it too, and your reputation. In this industry, a reputation is important because we are kind of a close knit organization, like not organization. I mean, there's voice actors everywhere, but when I go to conferences, I'm well known because I've been in the industry nearly a decade now, and I make time for people. I make time for phone calls and Zoom calls and texts and Facebook messages and LinkedIn messages. Like, I get so many people contacting me on a weekly basis, but I take time to answer every single one. Now, if it's a complete stranger and they want to pick my brain, I say no, because that's a
Mhm.
boundary. That's a boundary because I don't know you and you haven't even, like, Joe, we hadn't met, and you do an
Mhm.
incredible job researching your guests before you even start putting together questions. The level of digging that you did to find out the information about my background, I was so impressed because I've been on many podcasts and different shows, and you're a very good interviewer and you come up with great questions. So I was really
Thank
impressed
you.
with that. Kudos to you. And you're lucky. Your guests are very lucky because that makes us feel seen and heard and understood before we even, get on a call with you. So
Mhm.
I think that being willing to look for the good in people matters too. I can see that you're good at that. That's why people are attracted to your personality. And I feel that that's something I share as well. I notice things about people. I'm personable. I think that really matters because soft skills are becoming a lost art, and I don't know why. I d We need soft skills. We need people to be kind, compassionate, caring, interested, curious. All these human emotions cannot get lost in the shuffle just because we're too busy, getting our business done. When I do directed sessions with clients, I try very hard to look for ways to just sneak in a compliment or a personal touch of some kind. I don't know. We got into one session, we got to talking about like mushroom coffee. Not a long
Oh.
conversation, just a little thing. And it's just a way that you can show that you're a human.
Mhm.
And I particularly do love to bring up controversial topics such as eggnog, for or against. Things like that. Very
Right.
controversial. Have some personality in other words.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like you have this like direct client relationship approach through email and LinkedIn, which I found intriguing. Like, I know you have, a course on LinkedIn, like, and we obviously discussed LinkedIn and the power of it on this show, to a degree, but like, how about like sharing more about strategies for how you connect with clients and how, obviously it's played a role in your success, but in the beginning, even like how were you connecting with these people? Was it in mail? Was what was your strategy back then?
Well, I have had the same strategy since I started, and I've just sort of evolved it the best that I can. In fact, I've only recently really focused on content creation and posting every single day. I haven't been doing that for very long, and my network has still grown and flourished, even though I'm not putting out as much content because that doesn't it didn't bring me as much joy as I wanted it to, but I did end up partnering with someone else in the industry who kind of awakened me to the fun that content creation can be. And then he introduced me to that app, CapCut, that you can make
Mhm.
really
Yep.
quick, easy videos. Do you use that too?
I've used it. I've used captions. Yeah, I mean, people turn you on to different software like every week. I feel like, and they just keep getting better and better.
Yes, and you have to just keep doing it because when I first started doing online videos, I was never doing videos of myself because I'm like, I'm not an on-camera actor. I don't come from an acting background. I don't want to deviate from your question too much. You asked me my
No.
strategy. So, this is my strategy. I have a very easy 3-step process for what I do, and I teach this everywhere I go, and I'm happy to share it. It's not rocket science. So, step 1 is optimize your profile because you don't want to bring people to you to come look at a profile that is incomplete and doesn't showcase who you really are. And when you're writing your profile, it's got to be personal. It's got to come from a first person tense instead of saying Joe Steele, blah, 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 or Tracy Lindley is this and that. You say I. So it's like you're talking to the other person at a networking event or some other professional. You're still keeping your professional side on. You're not going to go off into Instagram mode or TikTok. I mean, we could talk about that too, about how people continue to cross the lines of social media,
Oh, please, yeah,
quote unquote boundaries. But LinkedIn is still
yeah.
very, very much a professional platform, and that's what we all like about it, I think. Now,
Yeah.
People are very much into storytelling. Storytelling is a huge buzzword. It is a very big part of social media. People want to hear stories. They want to tell stories. They want to relate to other humans. You just keep your professional side on to do that, but it's not like we can't talk about feelings. What was it? I don't remember which day I posted it, maybe Monday, about I saw this thing on Instagram that said, this goes out to all the girls who got talks too much on their report card. That has been a great performing post. And I didn't even have an idea in mind of what would happen when I posted that, but so many people resonated with that. So that's an example of talking about feelings, but in a way that is relatable. And it's all about what you say in the post too, or not just, I saw this today on Instagram, done. Like, no, I need to share a story about why that resonates with me. But anyway, so you optimize your profile is step one. Step two is searching and connecting with the people who would want to hire you for what you do. So for me as a voice talent, I look up things like video producer, creative director, e-learning designer. I know those are all titles of people that hire voice talent. So I don't want to spam everyone. I just want to target the people who do actually use voiceover services, or so I believe. And I'll ask them about it, if they do, happy to be a resource for you. And then you communicate with them in a non-spammy way, like saying that you want to be a resource rather than listen to my demos, check out my website. Like, I don't do it that way.
Right.
I just try to be casual and friendly and also keep it short, because I think the longer the message, no, nobody's going to read all that. We're too busy.
Hmm.
So it's a pretty easy 3-step process. I mean, it's like I said, it's not rocket science, but it's just putting the dots together and being as relational and authentic as possible and genuinely trying to take an interest in people. When I send the messages, I do personalize each and every one with the person's name, and I try really hard to see something on their profile that I could comment about, that I could start to build that common ground relationship. And it's been really effective over the years.
Seemingly, and how would that, like, someone that's going to a conference, how would you, like, again, being on a platform like a LinkedIn, obviously you can search keyword. What's sort of the practice when you get there in person at a conference to these people that might be able to help you in some way? How are you approaching them when you get that the FaceTime?
I mean, it's kind of the same approach as far as
Mhm.
being friendly and relatable, but I think one of the main things that people forget is that the most the most popular topic that anyone wants to talk about is themselves. Tell me I'm wrong. I mean, we all want
Right.
to
Yeah.
share stories about how we're doing in our business, or maybe we want to talk about our families or whatever. But people love to talk about themselves, and that doesn't have to be a negative thing or an arrogant thing. It's just you know yourself the best. So I try
Mhm.
very hard to walk into a room and not tell, all of my stuff, but just, hey, it's nice to meet you. Where are you from? What do you do? Shake hands if you want to, or if you're not, give a fist bump or whatever. But get to know that person. And when you take an interest in someone else, they typically take an interest in you, and they'll talk about themselves. And then usually they reciprocate. They're like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
I need to ask that person about them. So then they will. I mean, that's just human conversation and interaction, is give and
Mhm.
take, tell and give and receive information. That's just basic communication.
Right, right. Yeah. And then someone you connected me with on LinkedIn, I wanted to get into mentorship, right? So that's played a role. And Jody Krangle specifically, you say it became a quote accidental mentor, right?
Yeah,
So like
yeah.
how's like a mentor or coach shaped your growth in the voiceover industry? I mean, she looks, just the brief interactions we've had, she's super engaging and just she seems to be crushing it in the industry as well. So how did that sort of like play a role in your journey?
Well, she was crushing it before I ever entered the industry. She's been in a lot longer than me, and she's amazing. She's very humble. She is very authentic. She will help you. She did a great job of, well, I kind of had my eye on her because she stuck out to me as someone who, oh, she's successful. She's got it going on. She's together with her life. And I thought, okay, if I could aspire to be more like Jody. So there has to be this sense of they're further ahead in the journey. And so a mentor, you look for someone that's further ahead in the journey and has some things figured out that you're still getting there. I saw her interacting in different LinkedIn groups that I was in. I'm less active in groups now than I was, but back then when I was first joining LinkedIn and that's where I hung out all the time, way more than Facebook groups. But then she was active in a lot of voiceover Facebook groups too, because she's a very relational person. And I think that she knows that she has something to share because she's got a lot of great experience and she's not selfish with her time. So I'd noticed her, and then she posted something that she needed help with, and I knew someone that could help her. So I saw that as, that's my chance. I'm going in. so so I
Cover me.
contact yeah, I mean, I was like, "Oh, I can help. It's finally something I can do for her." So I introduced her to this person, and it was like a home studio question. Anyway, we just kind of started talking after that. Just I would message her this or that question. I knew not to be a pest. She wrote back very kind, thorough, and well thought out responses. And then we took it from LinkedIn to email, and now we're very dear friends. We're in a monthly mastermind group together, and I see her at conferences, and she's just a lovely person. But I say accidental mentor because I didn't really ask her to be my mentor, and she didn't know she was influencing me as much as she was. But her email responses really helped guide my thinking and my journey and helped me avoid a lot of pitfalls.
That's key, right? If you can avoid the mistakes they may have made, I mean, that's just going to save you a lot of time in getting your career going. And with the career that you have, we kind of touched on in the beginning as well, like family, right? You're a mom of four. You have a husband, Matthew. How do you take the time with all the stuff you're trying to do, build this business into the success that it is today, balancing that work life, personal time, even, right? How are you juggling like all these multiple responsibilities you have just in your everyday life?
Well, Joe, I don't think anyone is an expert at doing the work-life balance, but we all do the best we can. My husband has been supportive of my pursuit of this career since the very beginning, and I've tried to be really respectful of my family's time. I try to do everything I can between work hours when my kids are in school. And I started my business when I had 3 kids and then recorded my demo right after I found out I was pregnant with baby number 4. So I've been in the trenches. I mean, I've done this career since I was pregnant, had a newborn with 3 other children. I've learned that you just have to operate this business in the what I call the cracks of life. And I say that a lot because there are many little pockets of time that can be overlooked for how valuable they are. And I also find that if you spend quality time with a child for, go sit down and give them your full attention, don't check your phone, don't do other things. Read with them, play blocks or a game or whatever, depending on how old the child is. Give them
Mhm.
uninterrupted time where you're really focusing on them. Then they're going to be more willing to say, let you work. They'll go do their own thing, typically because they're happy and their needs are fulfilled. So I try to be very cognizant when my kids were younger to try to do that. Now all 4 are in school, but it wasn't always that way. Even 2 years ago is when all 4 kids were in school. So not even that long. This is the 3rd year because my daughter went to a half day kindergarten class because I'm selfish and I want them with me all the time. And I just do desk work while they sit and color with me in the early days. But anyway, just looking for those blocks of time, and I try to set boundaries. Like I will work from 8:30 or 9 to 2:45, and I'm not going to do directed sessions after 2:45 Central, which does make it tough for West Coast clients, but I think most people are respectful that you want to be a good parent, and I have to go pick up my kids. They're going to get out of school at 3 o'clock, and I have to be the one to pick them up. My husband works a 8 to 5 job. It's flexible somewhat, but I want to respect his company policies, and I set my own rules. So it makes sense that I'd be the one to pick them up. And I actually miss it if I don't. I don't want to miss that 3 to 5 window because that's when they're most chatty and they want to tell you about their day and all that. So I don't want to miss out. So I think just trying to be as involved as possible. And my husband and I also have a shared iPhone calendar because if you don't have a shared calendar with your partner or spouse, you ain't gonna make it. You got to know what's coming up at all times and just be there before there's a fire that you have to put out.
It's funny you said that because we have a shared iPhone calendar as well. And when my daughter was in, was it preschool. I was selfishly, did the 3 half days a week as well. Oh, we did 3 half days because same thing. You want to keep those moments as long as they last, right? You don't want to kind of give up if you don't have to. Some people are like, unfortunately they work. They have to put their kids into a kindergarten from 8 to 6 every day or whatever it might be because both parents are working and that's just their lifestyle and how it's set up. If you can work your schedule around it, that was my preference to just be able to be involved. And, I volunteered this morning at her school. You just constantly are trying to stay into their lives as much as you can, right?
I even substitute teach at the school, yeah. I mean, we wanna
Oh,
be
no kidding.
involved. Well, if
Mhm.
I can, and I always take my gear with me too. I posted a video not too long ago where I was recording in my car. I literally
That's so
subbed at the
cool.
school, took a lunch break, recorded some promos for iHeart, and then went back into school. But it worked. My van works really well. I drive a
Yeah.
minivan. It's a little embarrassing, but how in the world am I gonna carry around 4 kids and all their friends with that one? But it does great acoustically because the kids were playing on the playground not too far away, and it didn't get into the recording.
I'll take that in New York and LA, right? Like you can't do that in a subway.
That's true.
Sure.
Because of the part of the country that I live in, we don't get, quote unquote "city noise."
Mhm.
The city is spread out, so not so much noise.
Yeah.
Because I don't
Yeah,
live
so,
in
like
Kansas City.
right, right, you're in the suburbs like myself, but, I probably could do the same if I needed to. A lot of quiet up here, but, like, so if we're gonna say, like, you're as a veteran, right, in this voiceover industry, like, are there changes or trends that maybe when you started out or maybe, learning from others like Jody, this is the way it used to be. These are the new trends. I mean, obviously recording in your van in between like, school functions and stuff is a huge leap in technological advances. But like, are there any things that you've found or that's coming up or things that staying on top of or adapting to in sort of like the evolving landscape of tech and just the voiceover world like that you could share that you feel are the most maybe beneficial to you and maybe some that haven't been very useful for you in the landscape.
I mean, it's a difficult question. I think I've kind of answered as far as you have to have a home studio now. Before
Yeah.
2020, maybe you could get away with going into a studio if you lived in a large city, but you can't do that anymore. And I think once someone realizes how much easier it is to not pay a studio, but you've got the studio to record your own thing, you wouldn't want to go in anyway. Although I miss it, so occasionally I will. But I think the last time I was in a studio was in August, and I was in Dallas and booked a pretty good gig, so I went into a studio even though I had my equipment with me. But I think the buzzword right now is artificial intelligence, AI. Everybody's got their eye on that. Voices are being cloned. The technology just continues to get easier and cheaper.
Mhm. Sure.
So that's why I'm part of organizations like the National Association of Voice Actors, NAVA, and that's the gala that I'm going to when I come to LA next week, or actually this weekend. It is important to protect the rights of the human that is behind the voice. There's been situations where voices have been stolen. Even the person who originally voiced Siri didn't know what she was getting into. There was a lawsuit against TikTok for the original AI voice for that. She didn't know what she was being told. She wasn't told what the project was for, or it was a bait and switch. I don't know all the details, but she did. She did win her lawsuit,
Hmm.
and it's someone that I know personally. And
Oh wow.
she's kind of set the stage for standing up against that type of behavior. So Nava has an AI writer. It's basically something that you can add to your contract that has legalese that protects your voice from not being cloned, used without your permission, that sort of stuff. So I think that's one of the things that voice actors need to be very aware of is making sure that they have more ownership of their voice and also being careful who you work with. I really like to build relationships with my clients so that they would never even dream of doing that to me because I'm a real person to them and they wouldn't want to. Recently, I did post about a client that I adore. We have been working together for a very long time. He had to clone a quick part of my voice for a revision that was on the fly. I'm fine with that. And he paid me as if I had recorded it on my own. So that's the kind of thing that I really feel is okay to do. And I am 100% okay with that type of AI use because I was compensated as though I had done the work and voiced it and sent him that revision. So
Hmm.
that's the way it should be, and I hope that the landscape continues that way, but that's why, Nava is trying to fight for things like that. But yeah, AI is really starting to step on people's toes, and we
Yeah.
don't know where it's going, but it's good to stay on top of it and stay informed.
Well, and that kind of leads me to my next question was like maybe advice for someone who is contemplating a career in that. Obviously AI could be, pitfalls to avoid, or, maybe like key principles to embrace. Like what advice you would give them based on your own experience and what you see looking forward.
Well, I would say that it takes a lot of perseverance to be part of this industry. It is competitive. I I don't think about the competition, but it does exist. There are thousands of people who want to be voice actors. Part of, you know, you hear a lot of people say, "I'm told all the time I have a nice voice," or "I come from a radio background." I mean, I really never thought much about why I was qualified to be in the voiceover industry. I just jumped in and hoped it worked because it's a place for people with all different voices. But the most important thing to remember is how you use your voice. We don't want to listen to someone that sounds like they're reading or sounds like they're telling us what to do. The old style of advertising, back in the black and white TV and Jack Benny radio days, that male boomy voice telling us what to buy, that is no longer a thing. And it is now time for us to hear from women, people of color, all different sorts of accents and races, and we want that diversity in our culture. We want to hear those people represented in ads and seeing them in web videos and things like that. So not just who's on screen, but you can hear if someone might be of a certain race or accent. So we want to hear that, but we want it to be authentic. So if the person on screen doesn't match the voice, are immediately we're like, nope. And advertisers know that, and they're getting smarter about what people want to hear. And they're especially different cultural events have shifted to where we want more people of color represented in advertising, not just on screen, but in our ears. So even a radio ad where you don't see anything, you want to hear a person of color. And to promote that, I have a referral list of people that I build relationships with. And I really try to continue to build that side of my referral page as well. But I want to represent or support people of color that want to enter the industry, especially. It's more and more and more welcoming for a non-white person as well. And that's what I love about it. There's a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I mean that's great advice, right? The opportunities that are out there that maybe people wouldn't have had, a decade ago, for example.
Mhm. And I have a resource page on my website. I know you were going to get to that, but my website is tracylindley.com, and you just go to the resource page or you can hit /resources. I get this question a lot. I want to get into the voiceover industry. How do I do it? So I've heard that question so many times that I started a website or a web page a long time ago. I used to have this PDF that I would send to people, and then I'm like, no, I'm just going to send them to this link. And it boosts my SEO anyway. So please come, click the link.
The-
It's got really good resources. And then I can backlink some of my friends' websites that I really believe in what they're saying and the advice they're giving to people. So then I can help out a friend too. Cause I'm always looking for ways, pay it forward, pay it forward. How can I support other people in the industry? And that's one more way that I like to do it. But I also don't put anything on my resource page that I don't personally believe in, or I don't, appreciate what that person, their messaging style. I don't put anybody that I think is really selly and spammy. Those people don't go on my resource page either. So it's a good list of trusted colleagues, in other words, and a lot of good advice on building a home studio, what coaches to go to, performance tips, and just there's a lot to know. You can't just go buy a microphone and a computer and expect to get business.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, and speaking of business, you've had some really good business clients like, Amazon Pharmacy, realtor.com. Like looking at your body of work so far, like is there like maybe like a memorable experience or project that stands out to you in your career, like and like what made that special for you to be a part of?
I really can't think of anything in particular. It was pretty cool to be the premier voice of Amazon Pharmacy because it was PillPack and then it became Amazon Pharmacy and it was an honor to be the premier voice and I've been replaced since then and that's okay. That's part of the industry. It revolves. You're not going to be able to count on one job feeding you for the rest of your life because you'll probably get replaced. The video producer that I was working with at one company got let go and so I wasn't able to work on those projects anymore because they sort of canceled that department. So things like that happen. But I don't really have anything super notable as far as projects. I can't think of anything right now. One of the most exciting things for me is watching my kids succeed. And my 8-year-old was, I think she wasn't even quite 7 when she recorded 12 episodes, little mini episodes of the Crybabies Magic Tears. And it went to Netflix. Her episode did. And I'm really proud of her.
Wow.
She
Oh,
dubbed
of course.
over a British child, so it was actually dubbing. But working with her on that project and the amazing Katie Lee, who, if you ever watched Darkwing Duck, Muppet
Yes.
Babies, listen to Adventures in Odyssey, that Katie Lee has been her tagline is voice of your childhood because if you watch TV and if you were born somewhere in the 80s, you might have heard her.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So we got to work with Katie on that really cool project. And so that is probably one of the most notable things that I've ever gotten to do. And I got to watch Alina succeed and flourish. And that is probably one of the proudest moments I've ever had as a mom.
That'd be hard to top.
I get way
Just
more
being
excited about my kids' projects than I do about my own.
yes, that we share in common as well. So, like, how about your studio, right? Like your setup. You mentioned like you can't just go get a mic and right and set up. Like, are there any like must-haves or items in your space that contribute to the overall vibe of your voice? Your performance.
One of the things that people overlook is your recording environment. So where I am right now, it used to be a closet. It's a big closet. So half of it is my studio and then the other half I have a desk in my computer area. It's a large closet, used to have a bunch of coats and stuff when we were first looking at buying this house. And I saw it and I immediately was like that's going to be my studio because it's so quiet down here. Being in the basement, it's very temperate between winter and summer, and everybody else is sweating in their boots in the summer. I'm nice and cool because I'm down in the basement and it's a larger space, so it's not as enclosed. But your recording space is one of the most overlooked things people do not think about. They get really excited about buying the cool microphones. Like this is a Sennheiser 416. It's one of the industry standard microphones. It's a shotgun mic. It works great because we were talking about before we hit record here, but it's very directional. It just gets the stuff right here. It doesn't record everything around me, which is great when you live in a noisy home with 4 kids. And thankfully, we don't have dogs because they are also noisy. My cats are very quiet, so they're low
That's true.
maintenance. But yeah, you got to have a microphone. You have to have an interface. People often ask me, can I just get a USB mic that plugs directly into the computer? No, don't do that. If you do, that's only a starter mic and you should not use it for very long. You can use it for podcasting. You can use it for even auditions. But for the real job, can't have a USB mic. It's got to
Mm.
have an interface to have that phantom power between the microphone and the computer. It produces a much better quality sound and you don't get interference and crackles and just all that stuff. Your sound chain has to be really good. I use Mogami Gold cables, the XLR cables, because they're known to be the best. And they also have, warranties. So your recording environment, your recording equipment, but then, I mean, you have to have the chops. You've got to have the performance skills to know what you're doing. You have to understand how to take direction from the client. If a client says they want proud but still warm and friendly, you have to know what that sounds like. I get that sort of request when it comes to award ceremonies. They
Mm.
don't they do kind of like the bigger boomy, dare I say boomy sound because I'm a woman, boomy's not usually used as a qualifier for my voice, but I can be very authoritative and that's actually really good for award ceremonies. But then you would not want that when you're trying to tell somebody to go have a coffee. Nobody
Mhm.
wants to hear the big boomy voice for that. So
The
you have to
eggnog, right?
understand, yeah, you got to be able to change it up and flow with the mood. Think about what you're quote unquote selling, like what's your purpose? What are you trying to accomplish here? Adjust your tone and your voice to the messaging.
Yeah, and I would say it's not just your voice; your ears are extremely good as well. Because before we started, I mean, you were even telling me how my audio, right? You were giving me tips on that. So trust me, it's your ears. I think play a vital role in what you're doing as well, and they're just as good.
Well, to be fair, you have great audio. There's no echo in your room, and all I did was just tell you to turn up your gain just a little bit
I know, but
because I didn't
most
want
people are.
me to be super loud and you not to be.
No, it's all good. But like what about a voiceover gig, like a dream gig that maybe you haven't landed yet that you've always said, oh, one day I would like to do this. What would that be?
I don't know. I mean, I'm just grateful for every opportunity I get, honestly. Some people really aspire to do video games or
Mm.
animation. That's not one of my dreams. I love commercials and if a cool gig fell in my lap, I'd take it. I'd be stupid
Okay.
not to. But I don't know. I mean, I like things that have good messaging, something that maybe aligns with my beliefs or an organization that I care about, somebody that's giving back. I really enjoy working with nonprofits, and I have a special discounted nonprofit rate, but I've really never had anybody try to take advantage of me being like, well, we don't have any money for a voiceover because that's what fundraisers are for. And they know that too. But yeah, I don't have a particular I can't give you a particular company that I'm dying to work for because I've worked for a lot of them already.
Right.
And it is fun. And I love working regularly with clients like Hewlett Packard and Amazon directly, like being in with their creative department. So I feel like I haven't definitely experienced everything there is to experience by any means, but I'm just happy for the opportunities I've had and I never know what's coming up next. So that's kind of fun about what I do.
Yeah, it's being along for the ride, right? So like people listening, right? We talked about tracylindley.com, LinkedIn. Are those the two places where people, if they wanted to learn more about you or connect with you, say hi, would those be the best, portals?
Yeah, I mean, I keep my business hat on for LinkedIn and I take it off for my Instagram. So if you would like to
Okay.
see pictures of my cats and my children, you can go to Tracy Lindley VO. That's my handle on Instagram. But yeah, I never liked Twitter and X and I am on Threads, but I'm like, "Really guys, what is this? I don't
Uh,
see this. I don't see it going anywhere. I like to watch TikToks, but I'm not about to join it, so I'm not on that either. But yeah, main ones on social media are LinkedIn and Instagram. And yeah, I mean, people can check out my website, but that's harder to keep updated. So sometimes
sure.
my best work, I haven't put it up yet, where I did put it on LinkedIn or Instagram.
Got it. Okay, cool. Well, listen, I really appreciate getting to. I feel like we've known each other forever. I've
You're easy to
learned.
talk to, Joe.
No, I mean you too. I've learned so much just in this brief time we've had together. But I truly do appreciate you taking the time to kind of just give so many just actionable skill advice to people to just take away and say, okay, I get it. She really is just killing it at what she does. And again, thank you so much for your time today. I really do just want to watch you continue to grow and see what you have, in store for everyone. But it's been great talking with you. And again, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Joe. It's been a pleasure to be with you today, and I'm looking forward to keeping in touch and seeing where life takes you as well. Supporting you from over here in Missouri.
Thanks, Tracy. Take care. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Experience Curve. Please take the time to share this podcast with a friend or colleague to help get the word out about my show.